On a late-night flight from Shanghai to Beijing, chaos erupted in the dark cabin. A violent brawl broke out because a few women refused to stop talking. The video went viral across China. But behind the shouting lies a deeper truth. A nation stretched to its breaking point, where even the smallest spark can ignite an explosion. This is not a story of war, but of a silent battle against hunger, unemployment, and a quiet fear spreading through the veins of society. When city lights fade, thousands of young people lie beneath bridges, live streaming their despair for a few digital coins. Skyscrapers that once symbolized prosperity now stand hollow, like monuments of broken promises. On the surface, the economy still grows, yet beneath, trust crumbles in silence. Tonight, Fascinating Discoveries takes you deep inside the side of China that no state media will ever show you, where the dream of prosperity has turned into darkness. This is the story of China 2025, where people no longer chase a better life, but simply fight to survive. And the journey begins, where no one dares to look. Number 1. The Cities of the Forgotten. Beneath the dazzling skyline of Shenzhen and Beijing lies another world, one that prosperity never reached. When night falls, under every bridge and overpass, hundreds of people build makeshift shelters from plastic sheets and old cardboard. They are not strangers to hard work. They were once factory workers, graduates, dreamers who believed in the Chinese dream. But now, that dream has withered into a torn blanket wrapped around a shivering body. Some live stream themselves sleeping, hoping for small donations. Others dig through trash bins outside luxury malls for leftover food. Across the street, high-rise towers once advertised as luxury apartments now stand dark and hollow, monuments of lost faith. The figure, more than 2.6 million homeless, is no longer just a statistic, but a heartbeat of despair echoing through the cities. At bus stops, the elderly sell bottles of water while the young fall asleep on cold benches. They are the invisible class. No household registration, no welfare, no future. Poverty is the worst form of violence, said Mahatma Gandhi. And here, that violence doesn't come from guns. It comes from indifference. By dawn, they vanish again into the rhythm of the city, as if they never existed at all. But poverty is only the surface. Behind those weary faces hides another story, of a generation with education, but no work, drifting through the chaos of a nation running out of promises. Number 2. The Lost Generation of Work. Morning in Shenzhen begins with the roar of motorbikes, thousands of delivery riders racing through the haze. Among them are university graduates, once top of their class, who believed a degree would guarantee a future. Now, they survive one order at a time, hoping for a few extra tips. Officially, youth unemployment stands at 14.5%, yet experts believe the real number could be twice as high. This is more than a labor crisis. It is a collapse of faith. Each year, over 12 million new graduates flood the job market, but the industries once hailed as the future, artificial intelligence, clean energy, electric vehicles, are hiring only a trickle. The promise of a tech-driven prosperity now feels like a fading mirage. In Shanghai, Beijing, and Chongqing, long queues of young people clutch worn resumes at job fairs, waiting for calls that never come. Some have stopped trying. They embrace the lying flat lifestyle, minimalist, detached, and quietly defeated. Others deliver food, drive for apps, or live stream to make ends meet, caught in a cruel cycle. Wait, try, fail, repeat. In dim cafes, tired faces stare at laptop screens, not to work, but to search for work. They are the most educated generation in China's history, yet also the most directionless. One sociologist calls them the generation wait, trapped between the glorious past and the uncertain tomorrow. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today, Malcolm X once said. But here, even those who have prepared still find no future waiting. And as the young lose their footing, their parents' generation begins to tremble too. For the old engines of China's growth are breaking down, piece by piece. Number 3. The fall of the old economic empire. On the outskirts of Guangzhou, once bright apartment towers now stand in darkness. Wind echoes through unfinished windows, clanging against rusted steel beams. These hollow concrete skeletons are monuments to a time when owning a home meant security, when people believed that buying property was a guarantee of a better life. But today, that belief has collapsed. The 3 pillars that once powered China's rise, construction, low-cost manufacturing, and real estate, are breaking apart. Real estate investment has fallen by over 11%. Thousands of projects have been abandoned, and weeds now grow in courtyards that never saw a single resident. Giants like Evergrande and Country Garden have crumbled under hundreds of billions in debt, leaving behind cities of unfinished dreams. Meanwhile, factories that once roared with production lines now sit idle. China's crown as the world's factory is slipping away. Labor costs rise, global demand shrinks, and foreign companies quietly pack up and leave. Warehouses overflow with unsold goods. For 33 consecutive months, producer prices have dropped, a clear sign of deflation tightening around the economy's throat. The great machine that once thrived on speed is running out of breath. A Chinese economist called it the silent earthquake. On the surface, numbers still shine. GDP grows, reports look stable, yet beneath, the structure is hollowing out. Real estate, once the nation's sacred vault of wealth, has lost its meaning. People no longer buy, no longer invest, no longer trust. And when trust disappears, even money loses its soul. For decades, China was praised as a miracle of growth. But no one dared to ask, what was the cost of that miracle? Perhaps it is this: a nation filled with empty towers, silent factories, and citizens who no longer believe that tomorrow will be better than today. And when the pillars of an economy fall, the cracks don't just run through concrete, they run through people's minds, spreading quietly into a deeper, darker crisis. A psychological collapse that no statistic can measure. Number 4. The human cost of collapse. When the economy cracks, the fractures don't just appear in buildings, they open inside people. A new class of poor has emerged: young, educated, homeless, jobless, and uninsured. They were once the promise of a rising nation. Now they drift through its streets like ghosts of a broken dream. In Shenzhen, Beijing, and Chongqing, an entire generation is quietly drifting, living day by day, surviving but no longer living. Mid-year research in 2025 showed that 12% of urban youth now live under unstable conditions, without steady income or housing. Anxiety, depression, and insomnia are no longer isolated issues. They are the pulse of a society in quiet collapse. When hope disappears, morality begins to erode. Petty theft, scams, and labor exploitation are spreading across the country. Some are lured into job offers that turn out to be forced labor camps, locked inside factories with no pay and no way out. Others fall prey to training programs that disguise human trafficking or online fraud. In the narrow alleys of megacities, you can see young faces with tired eyes, alive but barely. The once celebrated prosperity of modern China now conceals a collective exhaustion, where even happiness feels like a luxury. Man is not made for defeat, Ernest Hemingway once wrote, but here, people are no longer fighting to win, only to survive another day. Under the cold, neon glow, millions drift through the night, suspended between hope and despair. And when people lose hope, they cling to what remains: property, possessions, the illusion of stability. But that illusion has a price. The crisis of debt and survival costs is tightening around every household, and no one is truly safe. Number 5. The weight of debt and survival. In an unfinished apartment complex in Guangxi, a man named Lin stands quietly before the home he's been paying for over 5 years. The walls remain unpainted, the ceiling bare with steel rods, the stairs covered in dust. He still pays each month for a place he's never lived in. His story is not unique. Across China, over 60% of household debt comes from mortgages. Millions of young people continue to pay for apartments that are either unfinished or have already lost most of their value. Housing prices have plunged, salaries are delayed, and job security has evaporated, turning the once glorious dream of buying a home, building a family, finding stability into a generational burden. For many, every sunrise is no longer a beginning, but a battle for survival. They juggle 2 or 3 jobs, delivering food, tutoring online, live streaming products, just to keep up with bank payments. Teachers, engineers, and office workers now ride motorbikes through rain-soaked nights, trading sleep for survival. A vicious loop takes hold: work to pay, pay to exist. The sense of being trapped inside their own dream has become a collective tragedy. Apartments that once symbolized the Chinese dream now stand as concrete tombs of hope. "Debt is the slavery of the free," Thomas Jefferson once said. And here, those words sound prophetic. Freedom exists only on paper. In reality, life is shackled by loans, bills, and unreachable aspirations. A society that once prided itself on prosperity is now learning how to simply not collapse. And as debt spreads like a quiet disease, it drains more than wallets. It drains belief. The middle class, once the proud backbone of the nation, now begins to fade into silence. Number 6. The collapse of the middle class. In a small cafe in Chengdu, a middle-aged man stares quietly at a digital bill glowing on his phone. He once had everything: a stable job, a car, a home, and the belief that life would only get better. But now, it feels as if everything is slipping away. The middle class, once the beating heart of China's economic miracle, is quietly falling apart. They were symbols of stability, consumption, and hope. Yet when the real estate bubble burst, 70% of household wealth, tied to property, began to evaporate. Many realized their homes were now worth less than their mortgages. Consumer spending dropped by over 15%, and countless small businesses, cafes, and retailers shut their doors. Malls that once buzzed with crowds now echo with emptiness. Families are cutting back, saving more, avoiding risk. Luxury brands that once defined success now carry a sense of guilt, because buying has ceased to be joy and turned into shame. One economist observed, "China isn't just losing money, it's losing faith in its own future." When people no longer believe that hard work brings reward, the foundations of society begin to tremble. The Chinese dream, once hailed as the promise of a new generation, has become a collective debt. Parents no longer tell their children, "Work hard and you'll succeed." Instead, they whisper, "Don't borrow. Don't believe in miracles." Inside high-rise apartments, family dinners grow quieter. No one talks about the future anymore. They just hope tomorrow won't be worse than today. But as the middle class, the moral and emotional backbone of a nation, starts to crumble, something more fragile begins to break: trust itself. And once trust disappears, collapse doesn't need a sound. Number 7. Crisis of trust and the fragile future. As the crisis deepens, Chinese state television still shows golden wheat fields, smiling startup founders, and anchors declaring with calm conviction, the nation is on the path to recovery. Yet beyond the screen lies a different reality, cold, silent, and uncertain. While millions remain jobless, the government has stopped publishing youth unemployment data, deleted independent reports, and replaced online discussions with cooking videos, patriotic songs, and slogans urging citizens to believe in tomorrow. Relief policies arrive like raindrops in a drought, a few hundred yuan in shopping vouchers, marginal interest cuts, too little to heal a wound that runs deep. Between propaganda and reality, a chasm of distrust grows wider each day. One side speaks of growth. The other struggles with rent, hospital bills, and breakfast costs. Official reports still claim progress, yet smiles on the streets have vanished. Marriage rates have fallen to their lowest since 1986, and raising a child has become a luxury few can afford. Housing prices soar, education costs climb, healthcare drains savings, leaving an entire generation too afraid to love, to marry, to give birth. Why marry a mortgage? The question echoes across social media, a bitter symbol of disillusionment. In late-night cafes, young people whisper of escape, of lying flat, of opting out from a system that no longer promises reward. Over 60% of the youth no longer believe their lives will improve within the next decade. And when trust dies, a society begins to decay from within, not with explosions, but with silence. Outside, skyscrapers still glow in gold, and the cities shimmer under neon lights. But behind that brightness, hearts have gone dim. The country still moves, yet no one knows where it's heading. And perhaps that is the most profound tragedy, when a nation doesn't fall to war, but to something quieter, deadlier, and invisible: the loss of faith itself. Take a moment, breathe deeply. In the rush of life, in the roar of engines outside, have you ever stopped to wonder, what is really happening beneath the polished surface of our world? When streets glow under neon light and skyscrapers pierce the night sky, we often forget that, right beneath our feet, there are still people curled up in the dark, listening to the sighs of their own existence. Sometimes collapse doesn't come with a roar. It falls quietly, like midnight rain on an old tin roof. No one notices until the water reaches the doorstep. China, once the symbol of miraculous growth, now stands between two worlds, one radiant with light, the other shrouded in silent shadow. Between them live those who still breathe, still try to believe, but whose eyes have stopped reflecting hope. They no longer dream of wealth. They simply wish to live one more day without hunger. And perhaps that is the truest definition of poverty. Not the lack of money, but the absence of faith that tomorrow could be better than today. Elsewhere in the world, we keep shopping, scrolling, arguing over trivial things. While here, someone is live streaming just to earn enough for a meal. Someone sleeps beneath a bridge, beside a trash bag and the cold light of passing cars. Someone buries their dream of college on a winter night after their last job application goes unanswered. Someone once believed that hard work would bring happiness. But when the world changes too fast and the rules belong to the few, fairness becomes a luxury. And humans, in China, in Vietnam, or anywhere on this planet, are all searching for the same things: a place to lean on, a job to survive, a home to sigh in without shame, a dream uncrushed by reality. Perhaps poverty isn't just an economic tragedy. It's a mirror reflecting the soul of humanity. When we see slums, wanderers, weathered faces burned by sun and dust, what unsettles us isn't their sight. It's the familiarity of it. Deep down, we know, change a few circumstances, and we could be them. and they could be us. We are not so different, only separated by a few numbers, a few decisions, a few twists of fate. Someone once said, "We are all stories in the end." So what story will this era tell? Will it be the tale of prosperity, or of how mankind lost its soul in the pursuit of numbers? Are we building, or merely repeating the same cycle of rise and ruin, of hope and collapse? When an economy starts treating people as tools instead of souls, poverty no longer resides in wallets, it festers in hearts. If one day you walk through the grand avenues of Shanghai or Beijing and see someone asleep on a step, don't look away. Look at them as you would a mirror. Because what you see reflected there is not just the face of a poor man, but a truth we all try to avoid. The world is growing colder, not from winter, but from the human heart. We call it progress. But if progress means leaving millions behind, is it truly advancement? Or merely a more elegant form of collapse? Quieter, smoother, but far more cruel? Imagine, on a winter night above Beijing, thousands of darkened apartments like eyes already closed. The wind howls through unfinished windows, whispering the dreams left behind. On the ground below, a mother breaks bread with her child. The child asks, "Mom, when will we have a home?" She doesn't answer. She just looks up at the empty buildings reflecting city lights and whispers, "When people stop forgetting each other." That moment is not just China's tragedy, it is humanity's. Because somewhere, in every nation chasing growth, children ask the same question, and adults still bow their heads in silence. We have built the tallest towers, yet not a single shelter for compassion. We have created billions of products, but lost the ability to share. And perhaps that is the truest form of poverty. Poverty of empathy, of faith, of understanding. When the world looks at China, many see a giant economy faltering. But look closer, and you will see the reflection of every country, of ourselves. What's happening there might already be happening here, quietly. And the real question is no longer, where is China headed? But where are we, humanity, going? Even in the darkness, there are small lights. Sometimes it's the smile of a homeless man receiving a warm bowl of soup. The eyes of a young person who still believes in kindness. The grasp of a hand reaching for another without even knowing their name. We are still here, fragments of humanity. Fragile but unbroken, holding this world together just enough so it doesn't collapse completely. Let the music soften now, like the slow breath of a long night. Let your heart fall silent for a few seconds. Because sometimes, what people need most is not an answer, but a moment to truly feel. And in that silence, when all sounds fade, you might finally hear what the world has been trying to hide all along. The whisper of truth. A truth deeply human, achingly close, and endlessly fragile. As the city lights continue to glow and the sleepless streets fade into night, China stands as a mirror of the modern world, where prosperity and despair coexist side by side. We've walked through streets where the young live stream for survival, past towers that once symbolized dreams now turned to ruins, and among people still trying to believe that tomorrow might be different. Yet beneath it all lies a deeper question. Can an economy built on debt and inequality ever bring true stability? When a society trades its soul for the illusion of progress, is that growth or just another, quieter collapse? In the darkness, small lights still flicker, in the kindness of strangers, in the persistence of those who refuse to give up. Perhaps the true strength of humanity isn't in how fast we rise, but in how we face what we've lost. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends, Martin Luther King Jr. once said. And maybe the greatest danger is when an entire society becomes silent about its own pain. The story of China is not just China's story. It's a warning, a reflection for all of us. Because anywhere in the world, when wealth matters more than humanity, the fall has already begun. If this journey made you think, share your thoughts below. Let's open the conversation, because only through dialogue can truth find its voice. And if you want to continue exploring untold stories of nations, people, and the fragile line between hope and despair, subscribe to Fascinating Discoveries. The journey isn't over. The world is still waiting to be discovered.